Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are, and welcome to NerdTube. We are talking Moon Knight, Season 1, Episode 4, The Tomb. I'm here with Jack Nicholson and Reverend Jake. How you doing, fellas?
Doing pretty good.
I'm doing all right.
Fantastic. Well, this episode was kind of like the episode I was craving for as a fan of blood, gore, and guts and all of that sort of stuff, and we kind of got that to a degree, which made me very happy. Um, all I can say is that this episode surprised me after we were condemning, or I was personally condemning Disney for bringing out the same shit all the fucking time, and not maybe going, like what's the word, like they weren't basically. Oh, sorry, I knew there was a bloody sound coming somewhere. Which one is it? God damn it! Yeah, sorry. Um,
I thought it was
assuming,
me.
sorry, I
That's what I muted.
apologize. What the fuck is going on? Shit, sorry.
It might be that your speakers on here. It thinks if I have not put it into your earphones and put it on your actual speakers.
Yeah, I think so. 1 second. Oh god, this is just so bloody embarrassing. All right, 1 second. Okay, my bad. I do apologize. All right. So as I was saying earlier, I was very much looking. We very much appreciated this episode because it kind of gave me what I wanted, things I didn't expect from Disney. So for that reason alone, I really appreciated this episode. This episode had vibes of the Mummy. Had some moments of. Can you guys hear me? By the way, yeah.
Yeah.
Had vibes of the Mummy. Had vibes of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Definitely for sure. It was a decent episode. So before we break it down, first of all, Reverend Jake, how did you find this episode?
Great. Absolutely loved it. It was everything I wanted it to be. Really, the only thing it wasn't. I didn't is it being Alexander the Great's tomb. I was really hoping that it was going to be the tomb of one of Kang the Conqueror's variants,
That would have
some
been good.
pharaoh that goes back in time and rules Egypt for a while. And I was really banking on that for my Kangs everywhere theory. I'm still kind of hoping that they'll end up being that Stephen was wrong and it was that pharaoh. But other than that, I loved the episode.
Yeah. Boss man, what did you think?
Uh, really good episode. Really enjoyed it. But I like the sort of like quirky, like sort of like luncheon aspects we've got here, and I kind of liked it. And the thing is that this show, because it's very tightly written, has been very progressive. And to ask you, where I mean, we're going to go through the thing. So when the thing happened in it, I got to see when the thing happened. I was shocked because I've not really seen that before.
Okay. Well, first of all, let's just quickly go in the comments here. My personal stalker, Bandit. Hello, Bandit. Nice to see you, mate. I am here. I'll always be here for you, my son. Hope Denmark is good for you. Zam, just keeping your heart, and he's always with you. Damn right. Hello, Chapel Studios. We know who you are. 82-year-old Oscar winner, F. Murray Abraham. And I'll be honest with you.
But Abraham's 82.
Well, it's not just that, but honestly, until I found out he was the voice of Khonshu, I thought he was dead. Will not be returning to season 3 of Mythic Quest, citing personal reasons. Understandable. I mean, whenever you use actors in their 80s, you are chancing of them never coming back, like Patrick Stewart as Picard. Hope it's not health related and will affect his voice of Khonshu. I mean, honestly, you can't even hear F. Murray Abraham in that voice. It could be fucking anybody. Hello there, Chapel Studios again. As long as he comes back for Moon Knight season 2, well, we hope so. Zam the man, not seen you in ages. Hope things are well. Yes, I'm going to just find out who this person is as well. Thank you very much, whoever you are. And that is Michael, Man United fan. Nice to see you again. Michael, Michael Forley. Mate, I've been looking to find you. I was trying to fucking send you messages for fucking FIFA, mate. We need to be playing some fucking FIFA fucking soon. All right. I'm missing that shit, man. I'm missing that shit big time. All right. Back to this episode. So we begin with this episode with the leader of the god, so to speak, the guy whose avatar is the man in the suit, and he takes Conchu's little statue and puts it on a shelf. And you know what? That's all we get from that. Nothing further comes from that. We don't see the avatar dude again in the rest of the episode. We just see him put on a shelf, and I think there's other statues there as well on various other shelves. Maybe it's some of the other gods that have been imprisoned. It kind of maybe gives us an indication of what we get to see later on in this episode. But that's all we got from that. So maybe there could be a payoff for that next week to a degree. We'll see how that pans out. So we have the Mercs after changing the stars and all of that shit. We have the Mercs trying to kill Layla and Steven. Steven is unconscious, so Layla uses her initiative and throws a flare in the ammunition box. And basically, flares and Layla, they're pretty much a duality in this particular episode. Layla and flares, they become a recurring theme. But as before we continue further on this episode, I realized Layla was very much somebody who had to take care of herself most of the time in this episode. And all I kept thinking was, wow, the fandom menace are going to be really pissed off with this. How dare does this woman take care of herself in situations? She's not allowed to use her initiative. She must be saved by the man. I can imagine these fucking idiots saying shit like that. But nevertheless, 3-2 Gooners. Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I had to stop watching that game because of this shit, Michael. Anyway, so Steve wakes up amazed by Layla, and they head to the burial site. They talk about the deal made between Mark and Steven regarding who takes over the body. So that opening scene, by the way, did you like it? I'll start with you, Reverend Jake.
I actually, the interesting thing because there was a lot of statues, and I think that is something worth noting, and I think that's the whole takeaway from that very intro. Then getting into the next scene here, you're talking about with the mercenaries trying to stop Layla and shoot her. I thought it was a little sad how the turn radius on that gun, but otherwise I thought it was really great. It showed that she's being resourceful and finding a unique solution when she doesn't have access to a weapon. A little bit of MacGyver action, and it shows why I think she is a strong candidate to pick up Moon Knight in season 2. The fact that Oscar Isaac doesn't have a season 2 contract, I still think speaks to the fact that they could be doing a Layla pickup, and I'm totally down for it.
I was really concerned with that scene, but I thought to myself, she's hiding in a fucking car. Why not just shoot the shit out the car? But when they were going to get out the car to check it, I then thought to myself, you can't be serious. But thank God she got out the car to alert them in the first place. But I would have got really pissed off if they just left the car without even searching it. Boss man, what did you think of that first episode?
I'll let you get to this comment first before I go.
Okay, Michael, you could just tell me on Facebook, mate. We can message me on Facebook, dude, and we'll catch up for sure.
By the way, yeah. I really love the start to this because, it was a little bit dark because we did that night. I know, but it's at night, and you see them having to creep around, Layla having to use her ingenuity, which is something that we've not really seen in the show so far. And I really like that. I really like the fact that she does not need Moon Knight to protect her all the time. She could look after herself, and I like that. I like that the fact that we get the fact that she's a strong character in of herself. She's here to kind of I know, as I said, when she's dragging his body around and she throws the flare into the ammunition, and then you see the flaming, the fire go off in the tank, into the ATV and stuff is great. I mean, I love that start. I mean, Tricia, it's one of my favorite starts of this entire series, and this series has always had really great starts, and I thought this was the best of them, in my opinion.
I agree. So the next port of call, in case people are wondering what the hell was going on with this episode, is that they have to go to the burial site. And as they walk to that site, because they drive for a bit, but then they decide to walk, and as they walk to that site, they see a goat. And I remember thinking to myself, that goat is the luckiest fucking goat on the planet. How the hell it's not been fucking hung, drawn, slaughtered, and turned into kebab meat? It's beyond belief. Mephisto, for sure. Nevertheless, they end up arriving at the dig, and the area is deserted, and it seems the entire expedition has gone into the caves. Mark and Steve talk as they scavenge for supplies. Mark gets upset that Stephen has the hots for Layla, because you can tell he does. And as they prepare to go into the cave, Layla tries to kiss Steve, but he hesitates and tells Layla that Mark distanced himself from her because he did not want Conchu to use her as his avatar. And Stephen eventually decides to kiss Layla, and Mark hits himself in anger. What did you guys think of all of that? I'll start with you, Jack Nicholson.
Well, I mean, seriously, Oscar Isaac and the actress who plays Layla obviously have great chemistry. I mean, like, it's one of the things that I love most about the show. And, like, I love the fact that, like, I mean, seriously, it's very comedic when he hits himself, but it's also very, so, like, talks about the duality, that there's sort of, there's still friction there, like, and you can tell that, Layla's, is attracted to Stephen, even though she's married to, she's attracted to, she's attracted to Stephen, even though she's married to Mark. And I thought, that's a very interesting concept, that you're attracted to one personality but you're married to the other. Does that happen in real life, sort of thing?
How does anyone even like approach that? I mean, it's so unheard of. Like two different personalities embodying the same human being, that it's almost hard to take seriously. Like
no, but it happens.
It's
happens in
not
real life.
known. Yeah, but it's just not as
Yes,
common
it
as
is.
people realize. And
Split personality said bipolarism.
no, I agree, but I've never come across anybody like that. Never.
No,
And if I did, I probably think they're full of shit. Because it's just very hard to take that sort of stuff seriously. But all right, what did you think of all of those scenes, Reverend Jake? Hello,
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it was very comedic when he punched himself. It's probably the funniest moment of the episode. You kind of see it coming, but it doesn't stop it from being hilarious. But it is interesting how I think, and I think Layla looks at the situation of the love triangle, so to speak, and to her, it's two sides of the same person. I like this side of him, and I like this side of him for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she's more kind of looking at it as being in love with the whole person. We'll see if that continues once we meet more of him. But yeah, I think that's kind of how that scene plays out. And so she's like, yeah, I still love this part of you. And I didn't realize it was part trapped in you. And so I kind of really like how they handle that. It's, I think, a real big win for mental health in general, and mental health awareness, and accepting of people's conditions and what they live with. And this show's handled that side of the idea very well. I'm excited to see how they continue that side of it in the next episode, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. But I think it was really great. The grave robbing in general was done really well. Yeah, I also like the spot where it's like, oh, just us in the open road, and then boom, it's fell.
Yeah. Something like that would have typical Disney humor, Marvel humor.
I mean, I thought the slapstick was very well done. I mean, it was
I'm not condemning it. I'm
Yeah.
not condemning it. I'm not. I thought it was good, but it's typical then. So we get some more exposition on Layla's dad, the archaeologist, as they go through the cave and they find the tunnel with multiple corridors. And Stephen, using his Egyptian knowledge, draws the eye of a mutt, and with that they figure out which route to take. They come to a sacrifice room with fresh blood and body bits around. So they decide to go a different way instead of following the blood trails, and they hear gunfire and this clicking sound, and they decide to hide. Obviously, Stephen on top of these sort of banisters, so to speak, and Layla, unfortunately for her, she has to hide behind that sacrifice sort of bed. I don't know what the terminology is.
Altar.
But, sorry.
Altar.
I guess. Yeah. And we see the police officer character from episode 2. Remember when those two police officers came along to take him to Arthur Harrow, and it's the white guy with the beard, and he's been brought in by this mummified zombie. it feels like a zombie, not like somebody who's been living forever, so to speak. And you can hear all this clicking sound, and he just grabs the guy, throws him onto the altar, and starts cutting him up and putting his bits and pieces in a jar. It was very mummy-like. The movie, The Mummy, that is, with Brendan Fraser, kind of reminded me of things like that. And then the zombie, I'll call him the zombie, realizes that he's not alone and gets, and then we have a little altercation between him and our two heroes. But eventually, when Layla tries to run, Mark uses a table and some bits and bobs to crush that zombie, and that's that scene done. What do you guys think of that? I mean, this is a whole new aspect now. Like, this is something that needs to be answered. Who are these fucking mummified zombies? And like, why are they still alive, and what's their purpose? I'll start with you, Reverend Jake.
They actually mentioned in the episode when they first get down there, before they notice the meaty bits on the table, Layla gives a pile of exposition that these are sorcerers who are buried with the Pharaoh in order to kill anyone who tries to disturb his rest. So they kind of add that, and I think there's some really good foreshadowing when they're in the tent above ground. Like, as soon as they came into that scene, and they're like, okay, well, this is Harrow's encampment. There's nobody there, and I thought that was kind of creepy. Like, what happened to everybody? And then they flashed to that dagger on the ground, all bloody, and it's one of those used for the mummification process. And so right then I was like, okay, cool. There's something afoot here, and I was really drawn in to wait and see what was going to happen with the mummy stuff. I thought it was super vulgar, which leads to my question of the day. I'll run back on in a half a second here, but was it violent enough for you?
It was good enough. It was good. It was good. And there was some foreshadowing, because when they went into that room, there were some mummies alongside the walls, or mummified people, so to speak. So you could tell that other people had tried to come in here and do their shit, and they've been killed. But we don't know how many of these mummy sorcerers are inside this particular catacombs.
I get the feeling that those things have been feeding off their encampment ever since the door got open, just slowly but surely picking them off, all Predator and Alien style.
Yeah, for sure. It was a really good twist, a really good shock. Something I wasn't expecting. Jack Nicholson, what have you got to say?
I thought
it
was brutal. I mean, considering that you've been worried about the lack of brutality in this series, I thought it was pretty brutal when they pull this poor guy in, and
Bossman,
you see this.
Sorry, Bossman, you might have some applications open because you're going all max headroom on us right now, and
let's have a look. Of course, everything that I can.
Okay, go on. Yeah, you're better now.
To
a degree.
Okay, so I was going to say, considering that you've been complaining about the lack of brutality in this series, this was pretty brutal. The fact that they brought that poor guy in, and then that like whatever he is, like let's call him. I call him Mummy, you call him a zombie. What's the difference? That mummy basically like they're going, and then
alive.
And then you see like putting the different, which is something that you used to do for pharaohs, to put their parts into different bowls, and you see him do that. And then that thing was quite terrifying, because it reminded me of, if you've ever played Dead Space or the Necromorphs, they used to have a very specific sound as you get closer, or if you've ever played The Last of Us, where they bring zombies. One of them has this sort of clicking noise that it makes because of the thing getting the face. It reminded me a lot of that. Kind of terrifying. It actually kind of made me a little bit afraid. And I was like, I've not been afraid in one of these Marvel movies for quite some time, and I think that was pretty good. What do you guys think?
I love that scene. I thought to myself, yes, my needs have been answered. I mean, in a way, it went down the more horror route, so to speak. I would like some of this in my action, with people getting fucking cut open left, right, and center and blown to smithereens. Like if we've seen Rambo 4, that gives you an example. You know what I mean? Something like that. But to go down this horror route, and it was fucking scary. I loved it. I fucking loved it. And so yeah, You know, you can make me a believer, so to speak. I fucking loved it. So we're on to the next bit now. So Layla's now running through some caves, and there's a part where she can't really run across the ground because there's no ground to run across. So she ends up having to crawl alongside the wall, around the perimeter of this wall, where there's a little bit of footpath there. Kind of started to remind me of Uncharted a little bit, where as you're moving along, shit starts breaking off and falling off and all of that. And there is one of these mummy zombies chasing her, putting her hand through walls and stuff like that. Got this vibe of Shelob from Shelob's Lair a little bit from Lord of the Rings, a little, because even you're running away from these creatures, but who knows these caves better than those fucking creatures? You're fucked, you know. So that's what I was thinking. Eventually, one of them grabs her, and straight out of a horror movie, like just grabs her, takes her into the darkness. I like the way that she came back out again, and then she got thrown back into the darkness. And this fucker was at this particular point, this particular zombie mummy was trying to kill her. You know, like his arm had come off, so he was using like the bones coming out of his arm as a stabbing weapon, trying to stab her in the face. But she ended up using her initiative and using a flare, I may add. You know, Layla and the flares again. I mean, she did throw one, by the way, before she went crawling around the wall. She did throw one on the ground to see how deep the hole was, and it was bottomless basically. So she used a flare there too, but eventually she used another one, stuck it into that zombie mummy's face, and killed the fucker. You know, they both go over the edge, but she ends up hanging on, and she climbs. And I like the way she reacted after that as well. Like, this is not like in some films it's very cliched. Oh, we've had an encounter. Oh, just brush it. Oh, we fucking died. Oh, just brush it off and move on to the next thing. No, she was like emotionally fucked at that moment. Like, she just encountered a fucking zombie, a mummy. You know, like, what the hell's going on? A monster trying to kill her. You know, she just about survived. And I like the way she reacted after that. That felt realistic. That felt like any of us would do that. Like, you know, crawl up into a little ball and shit ourselves a little bit and realize how fucking lucky we are. Before I pass it on to you guys, I'm going to quickly mention that Steve also finds a tomb and believes it's the tomb of Alexander the Great after seeing the Macedonian writing. He believes it's Alexander the Great after seeing Macedonian writing. Layla brain also gets fucked a little bit because she has a conversation with Arthur Harrow, and he basically tells her that Mark killed your father. So with Layla surviving the mummy attack and up to this particular moment with her and Harrow, as well as Stephen finding the tomb of Ali Great, what did you guys think? I'll start with you, Reverend Jake.
Yeah, I mean, to talk about the fight, I was disappointed that the stuff broke away underneath her feet. I feel like that's just too much of a trope. Oh, I'm somewhere treacherous, and as soon as I'm off bit, oh, it broke away, and it creates false sense of tension. And I was kind of in the middle of being disappointed in that, when I was super happy with the way they did her getting captured by the sorcerer zombie mummy, where not only it grabs her and then she gets away and she's running back at the camera and you're like, oh, and then it pulls her back a second time, and I thought that was a really interesting way to do that. Loved the hell out of it. I love that she uses her suspense. Or sorry, her flares to beat it, so it creates a nice level of suspense. She's something she's doing before, showing her resourcefulness. Though I'll have to say I was a little disappointed because you hear that mummy zombie sorcerer thing, whatever, hit a ground. There's a thud, and it happens pretty quickly. And you were just talking, there's the scene where she tosses the flare off. That flare goes for a while. And it's going and it's going. And I'm all like, they needed to delay that thud until after she was done climbing to show how the drop really was. But yeah, whatever. It was still good. The backstory stuff I think was really good. It's a nice way to tease that out. And that plays right into the next scene where she's talking to Mark, which I think really it's a much more interesting way to find out about the backstory than how it's handled in the comics.
I want to get to that in a bit, but But regarding her and talking to Arthur.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. So it's right as far as her talking to Arthur, just learning about the backstory in general, because they kind of tie in together. Instead of saying it's a lot better than the straightforward way we find out in the comics, where it's just, okay, here's an episode, here's an issue, this is the backstory, boom, you're So I really enjoyed it.
This definitely was Layla's episode, in my opinion. This was definitely her episode, and I really appreciated her character development. It shows you how resourceful she is, and she's no shrinking violet. Jack Nicholson, what have you got to say?
I thought this part was amazing. I mean, the thing is that we've got to see what kind of a badass Layla is because she fought off the zombies. She played in the it's a mummy. Let's call it mummy.
Yeah,
But
it's a
she fought off
mummy,
the
yeah.
mummy and and she used the flare and stuff like that. And she also showed her dexterity in getting over that flaming Casimus pit sort of thing. I don't think I could do that. You know what? I mean, I thought that she was pretty badass because we don't follow back at all. I think until we get to this part, and then when he's like, "This is the tomb of Alexander the Great," I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. I thought Alexander the Great was buried in Greece because he died in rather interesting circumstances that I won't get into here. But I also thought, I mean, as I said, even Hawk's performance was really good in this. He was man, to tell you what happened to your father. It's just like, he killed him. It's tell me what happened. And then, this sets our attention that we know's coming on it. And it says on, and the thing is, plus the thing is, we don't have to wait that long for it to be resolved, which is a good thing in the back.
I agree.
I'd rather we waited some. I mean, we waited so long, we built tension, but I'm glad that it built up, a conflict there that should happen. It wasn't something that was forced. It's something that anybody could understand.
He's a master manipulator, old Arthur Harrow. I'll give him that. He knows how to fuck with people's brains because we do find out later on that it wasn't necessarily the case. He was fucking with her, but Steve basically opens up the tomb and sees Alex. I would say Alex. I mean Alexander the Great. Alex's mummified remains and realizes that that this was Amit's first avatar, and he then assumes that the statue of Amit or something to associate with Amit would be inside their throat. There will most likely not be a Moon Knight season 2. It's listed as a limited event series. Well, it's all about how popular things are. Never say never in this business, that's for sure. So Layla then comes into that same tomb and confronts Stephen and wants to hear from Mark regarding her father. So Mark takes over the body and tells Layla that he did not kill her dad, but was there when he died. But basically, her dad was double crossed by Mark's merc partner, who got greedy and killed everyone in that particular expedition, and tried to kill Mark too. Mark did try to save Layla's dad, but failed. So in a way, it's kind of cool that I actually assumed Mark did kill her dad. Which is why he ended up marrying Layla in a way because of guilt, but that wasn't the case. But, Layla did find out that Mark still felt guilty for not saving her dad, which is why he met up with her in the first place. So this was a good bit of the plot kind of finally revealed to us. Jack Nicholson, what did you think of that?
I thought it was an amazing scene. I mean, it was amazing acting for both actors. And the fact that there's no, I mean, the thing is that and this was probably the most tense, apart from other things we're going to get to, I was through this entire episode because, here's two people that were invested in their relationship. And also the fact that, because I mean, the thing is, not only their relationship, but also her relationship with Matt, with Stephen. I mean, that I mean, the thing is that, is this now going to affect the relationship with him as well? Is there a difference there? Is there enough of a difference that you can have a relationship with one while I hate the other? That's an interesting question that might get resolved. Is his death going to change how she feels about him? Those are those questions that we need to ask.
Actually, Bossman, I want to just add a bit more to this before we get into the next scene, because also Harrow also catches up with Mark and Layla and tells Layla to run. Mark stays back. Mark takes out a few thugs with an axe belonging to Alexander the Great, but then he gets shot square in the chest by Harrow twice. There's no fucking bulletproof vest there, in my opinion. It seems he's fallen, and the funny thing is he falls into water, but the water is shallow, even though he's falling deep. In his mind, he's falling deep into water. but the water is shallow. So before I pass it on to Reverend Jake regarding all of this, Jack Nicholson, what did you think of that as well? I mean, were you kind of shocked to see him get shot?
Yeah, because usually we don't see heroes be vulnerable, be what's the word, be mortal in a way. Because usually, if they do die, it's when they're doing something super heroic to save everybody. You know, it's when Tony Stark clicks his fingers to undo the snap, or when I'm trying to think of something, or it's something in the Avengers where a major character dies. I'm trying to think of one. When Black Widow dies in
when Loki sacrificed
she
himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 exactly. There's a point where this, you know, it's a nothing fight. Basically, he's there and he's just looking for altitude, and all he hears is kaboof, and then he looks at it, and he looks at it, and we look what happens, and we see Alvaro, and he shoots him, going, poof, and then all of a sudden he just like collapses into the pool. It's like, oh my god! Like I hadn't seen this, and then like you know he drops into the water, and I was like, I was literally like, oh my god! Like, I've not seen this, and this really made me love the show.
Yeah, I like shit like that too. So Reverend Jay, from the moment he opens the tomb and he gets the Ahmet little statue, and Layla confronts him about the father, as well as him explaining what happened, and then Arthur Harrow shooting Mark. What did you think of all of that?
Yeah, you know, I thought it was kind of weird how far down he had to stick his arm down that throat, considering the fact it was supposed to be the throat, but he's got his elbow in there completely. And it's like, okay, why did he just go into the chest cavity?
Yeah.
Also, after just fighting a zombie sorcerer mummy thing, I wouldn't be sticking my arm down anything's throat. It just sounds like, hey, I'd like to have my arm bitten off, please.
Good idea.
So I thought that was a little weird. I kind of already touched on the backstory. I'd like to see that play out in season 2. I know Cousin Cheeto is saying that this is a limited event series. I don't buy it. I think the money's going to talk. The season's doing well. People like it. I think season 2 might be something different. Kind of like we're seeing WandaVision. The season 2 to that is House of Harkness. I don't care what anyone says. That is, I'm guaranteeing you going to be a very close to direct sequel. And I think that's going to be the same thing with Moon Knight. So what?
I don't really look at that as a season 2. I look at that as a spin-off.
You know I can see that. You know, whatever you want to call it. When you have a show that's only one season long by its own nature, the only thing you can have for a season 2 is a spin-off, and that's why it's kind of like, sure.
Yeah.
I feel like we're splitting hairs on that, on calling it a sequel versus a spin-off. But I think there's going to be a sequel series to this too, and I think it's going to be starring Layla. I think that's all in the cards. So while I'll call it season 2 of Moon Knight for now, you know, maybe theoretically it looks somewhat different.
No, yeah. If it was Layla taking over the mantle, I would look at that as a season 2. But it's still Moon Knight. It's still Khonshu. It's still fucking being taking on the robes and stuff like that. You know. You know, like sometimes, you know, with particular shit, like, you know, we're gonna have Captain America 4, and it's going to be Sam Wilson playing him, but he's still Captain America, so to speak. You know what I mean? Just somebody else
Captain America, taking on America. Steve Rogers.
Yeah. It's just somebody taking on the mantle.
The thing is,
yeah,
I can see the racist no for the fucking fair.
Me too, dude. I mean, they already hated the fact that even though he's in the comics, he's fucking Captain America. They already hated the fact that, you know what? Watching this episode, I knew that a lot of the fucking fandom members would hate this because how dominant Layla was in this episode, and then how self-reliant she was in this episode. So they're obviously gonna hate on this episode for that alone, because how dare she? How fucking dare she? So we see.
Well, real quick, I wanted to hit on the imagery real quick. I actually, you're talking about he falls into a shallow pool, but he kind of keeps falling. I absolutely loved it, and I thought that was one of those gorgeous transitions that they've done in this whole time. I'm a big fan of cinematography. I know you guys have talked a lot about soundtracks in some of the episodes.
I love cinematography as well.
I really get into some of the gorgeous shots they do, and I thought that was just fantastic.
Have you seen Snatch? Sorry, boss. Have you seen Snatch? Have you seen Snatch?
Snatch is great.
You remember, like, when Brad Pitt, he gets uppercutted, and when he falls onto the mat, he looks like he's falling through water.
Yep.
It reminded me of that. You know what I mean? That's the sort of vibe I got. Jack Nicholson. Sorry, I apologize.
Well, I was gonna say, like, as I said, that imagery of like going through something into something was reminded me a lot, as I said, Lynchian, and a lot of this was Lynchian, especially that this part of it, like, as he was falling and he went into the and then he lands on the bed and stuff like that, and then he wakes up and he's just like, oh my god, it really good stuff, and then it was kind of like, is this what I've been predicting for a while? Where we see, like, is this sort of like how his mindscape is processing the information that he's putting in a psychology ward, where he's not aware.
We're gonna get. I'm gonna get to that now regarding that.
Sorry, mate.
All right. So look. So he's falling into water, and I'll be honest with you. I did feel that this moment was going to transition into that. I'm not sure how you guys were thinking, but when the moment he got shot, I thought, yeah, we're somehow transitioning to the psycho ward now. So we see two other people going through the jungle. One of them is called Proctor, and the other one is called Dr. Stephen Grant. And then we realize that we're watching some sort of bullshit Indiana Jones ripoff. It's a TV show as we zoom out. And we seem to be in an asylum. And this is one of the most cleanest, whitest looking asylums I've ever seen. It's almost like if the TVA had an asylum, this would be it. You know what I mean? And we see many people from the previous episodes in this asylum, like Stephen Grant's boss in the museum. She's in there, and the orderlies happen to be the cops who knocked on his door in the second episode. So as well as other people, so you recognize that a lot of these people are within the asylum. One of the people happens to be Layla as well, and she's now donning an English accent. I think the actress has an English accent. I think she's English actually, because sometimes I feel like I'm hearing a bit of an English accent in her American accent. But anyways, and then we find that Arthur Harrow happens to be the shrink, the guy in charge of everything. He's donning a completely different look. He's got a shorter hairstyle. He's busting a tash. He's got a cane because he's walking with a limp, a bit like Stephen Fry's, not Stephen Fry, Hugh Laurie's character from who plays that. What's the name of that fucking doctor again? Hugh Laurie.
House.
Yeah.
House. Yeah. But it reminds me a bit of House. When Stephen's in his room, in his office talking to him, he sees things that kind of reminds him of some of the shit that he's been up to. He sees the shoes that Arthur Harrow's wearing, as well as the cane, trinkets of various types, scattered all around, which is kind of resembles to some of the shit he's been doing. And also Stephen Mark is very much heavily sedated as well, because he's a bit of a loose cannon. So he's finding shit very hazy, and he's wondering what the fuck is going on. And eventually he runs away. He's able to get his shit together. He gets away from the orderlies who try to hold him back, but he knocks one of them out, bites the other one. And then as he's running around the corridors, we see chandeliers swinging about. So what the fuck's all that about? He hides in one of the rooms, and there is a sarcophagus in there, and it has bloody Stephen Grant in there. So he's able to see his double. Instead of knocking this motherfucker out for trying to fucking date his wife, they hug each other. And then they go running around the corridors again. There's another room with a sarcophagus in it. And this time they ignore that particular one, but somebody wants to come out of that. And eventually they reach these double doors and they're about to open them. But a humanoid hippo woman comes out of that door dressed up as some sort of Egyptian goddess. And she waves at both Mark and Steve saying hi. And then they scream in hysterics. And that's the end of the fucking episode. So with this, and you know what? The funny thing, what I liked about this is that we did spend a good 5, 6, 7 minutes in this asylum part before we ended the episode. It wasn't like, oh, he just wakes up in an asylum and it ends. We did spend some time there. And then they had a real cliffhanger with a fucking walking hippo woman. Now, before I pass it on to you guys, I want to give my opinion on this. Like, this is bullshit. Like, this is not real. Yeah. because look at this fucking asylum itself. It is unbearably clean and white and not realistic in any capacity. And you've got a fucking hippo woman. You've got Mark coming out of a sarcophagus. If that's real or not, I'm not even sure if he's making it up in his mind. Where he is now, I think because he's got the statue of Ahmet, I think Ahmet's fucking with him. You know what I mean? I really do, in my opinion. And that's how I see it. I can't really explain any more than that. Maybe Ahmet's taking him over. I don't know. Maybe he's put him on trial, to see if he's worthy to be his successor as an avatar. Who knows? It could be anything along those lines. But this is not the real world, not in the slightest. Reverend Jake, what do you think?
I think it's pretty obvious that this isn't the real world. I don't really think that there's anything that's going to try to fool us as the viewer, which is, I know, was Cousin Cheeto's worry. I don't think we're going to see that. I wanted to side note real quick. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the bingo caller is the living statue. It's the same guy. So it's interesting.
He's got
the most
really
vocal role in this episode, where he doesn't get to speak otherwise.
I was really trying to figure that. I thought to myself, is that the guy from Game of Thrones? I just know this guy. You know what I mean? But no, yeah, bingo caller. I'm glad you pulled that one out. Thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, and I don't think there's so much going on here. There's statues of Ahmet inside of Arthur Harrow's office. So I don't think that they're trying to pull one over on us to make it so. And I think they're going to do something really interesting. I do think this is all generally in Mark's mind, though. I think everything's happening inside of his head right now. I mean, all the hallmarks are there. He can see other personalities and interact with them. And it's I think this is kind of outside of time or space, which is what that whole opening shot of when he gets shot and he kind of keeps falling through the water and through where the ground should be. I think that was kind of like he's going on a journey through time and space right now. I mentioned last week that there's a similar comic line that sees him in a psych ward where Ahmet is the shrink. And that one, it takes place in some interdimensional space. So I think that really that could be where we're at right now, some sort of interdimensional space powered by his head. And things are going to get really weird next episode, and I'm super excited for it.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be fucking an acid trip next week for sure. Jack Nicholson.
Well, as my name suggests, this reminded me a lot of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. The pristine sort of like white walls and stuff like that, and the fact that he's in a wheelchair being wheeled around, like we see him get wheeled around, and the fact that he's talking to Ethan Hawke, it's like we know who you are. I know all about you. It's sort of as menacing in that doctor role as he is in Nobly. I wanted to see that maybe this is how his mind's handling getting out of death. It reminded me a lot of Jacob's Ladder. I don't know if you guys have seen.
Yeah, I've seen Jacob's Ladder with Tim Robbins.
Yeah. When we don't know what's going on, but it's something going on.
I'm going to spoil it right now. He was in surgery all along, and he was basically getting rid of his life. He was like saying elements of his life was being removed as he knew he was dying. So it wasn't about holding on; it was about letting go. That was the whole point. You know what I mean?
Whereas this is about him wanting to cling on to life, but things that are trying to push him away. His guilt over Layla, his Arthur Harrow being the thing that is trying to push him away. The hippo god, I think, is an ally, because you got to remember that Ahmet is a crocodile god, produced as being crocodile human. So we don't know who this hippo is. I'm sure there is some was it Hindu Egyptian ancient goddess. We look it up. We'll look at Google a minute.
Well, maybe he's actually a living, real person, but they look like a hippo to Steve and Mark,
Yeah. Well, that's supposed to be That's an Egyptian god.
It's
Wallet?
Taret. Taret, yeah.
Yeah. And it's
That's
apparently some sort of protection god.
Yeah, that was very fear and loathing in Las Vegas. That was that. Yeah, I mean that was it was really really bizarre.
Though
But,
honestly,
yeah,
I don't
great
think
David Lynch as well.
I mean, he's used to seeing a giant bird skull talk to him. How much weirder is it if you run into a hippo lady?
Do you think he would know about Rocket Raccoon as well? You know, being on that planet.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Thanos and the invasion should all be stuff he's aware of happening.
He would know about a talking tree. He would know about a talking fucking raccoon, and aliens as well. Generally, yeah. I mean,
I think he should be more surprised at seeing himself.
I'm getting some up-to-date scores here. Nice, wonderful. I can't wait to watch the highlights. Sorry, say that again, please, Rev.
Honestly, I think he should have been more surprised seeing himself than he is seeing the god or the goddess.
Yeah, how is he able to be now? How are they able to be a doppelganger of him? I mean, that's not possible.
Well, it's still taking place in his head.
Yeah, exactly. But it was pretty decent. All of that. We got a good chunk of that asylum scene. We knew this was going to happen, and like I said, I did feel that when he got shot, it was going to transition into this. It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out, and if anybody in this world he's living in is genuinely real, because I feel all of them, Harrow, the orderlies, everyone in there are all illusions. There might be somebody else in that world who might be the real person, maybe Amit or anybody else, but it's very hard to say. But yeah, wow. I mean, this is the episode that really got me back on board with this show. It really did. I thought it was very much by the numbers, with the second and third episode to a degree, with like stupid action set pieces, which didn't really lead to much. But this was a really good episode. This was the mind fucker what we were looking for and everything. I cannot wait for episode 5. I don't think episode 5, and I hope it isn't to a degree, is some action wham bam thank you man. We don't necessarily need that in every episode. I do want it to be a psychological thriller with basically a battle of wits, so to speak, in this chess match of how to get out of this maze of an illusion. I'm really looking forward to that if that's the case, and we'll see how that pans out. Like these episodes are being very generous with their length. Most of them are like over 50 minutes long, so we do get a good chunk of time in each episode. None of them feels too short; they feel adequate in length. So I'm hoping the next episode will feel that, because that will be the penultimate episode. And from my experience, and I've said this before, penultimate episodes tend to be some of the best episodes in television shows. And I'm hoping this one could be that too. And it should lead up to the final episode that we haven't seen. Is it named Jack Proctor? Is that his name?
Who?
Is it Jake Proctor, the third personality?
No, it's Jake. Oh crap! No, I can't think of his last name.
But Jake's
Lockley,
my bad.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah.
Nevertheless, but we haven't seen this person yet. I'm hoping to see him next week, because you can't. If there is this third personality, which we have been teased, considering regarding the blackouts and that sarcophagus where somebody was wanting to break out, I do feel that it's about time that we get an introduction to this character before the final episode the following week. Don't you think so, fellas?
Yeah, I think getting him out is going to be the key to them escaping wherever they're at. And coming back to life is going to be all about getting Jake out. He's going to be a big part of it and a requirement. I think it's really the only way you can spin it with where he was at last time. I almost kind of wonder if part of this isn't about healing Mark mentally as well as physically. So we'll see. There has been a theory that when you see all the other statues at the beginning of the episode, all of the other gods have actually been captured. I forget where it was, but there's a theory that basically all of the avatars have locked away all of the gods at this point, and so we could be seeing something where it ends up being that Mark, Moon Knight, whoever has to actually save all of the gods, and that could be why we're seeing Tuaret get involved here with healing both his body and his mind. I'm expecting there to be a lot of reveals next episode. I remember I mentioned this a couple times. There's that review or that interview with Oscar Isaac, and he said, he knew nothing about the project. He was sent the script for episode 1 and episode 5, and he immediately said yes. So he didn't know any of these other episodes, but 1 and 5 were supposed to be enough to get him on board. When he was skeptical, and a lot of the interviews before, when people talked about him being Doctor Strange or playing something else, it was always like, oh yeah, no, Marvel's not going to get him. He's not going to do a Marvel movie. So I'm really expecting something.
He was Apocalypse, and he probably thought, well, I don't want to get burnt again, especially as I'm playing another Egyptian character in the Marvel universe.
Right.
Jack Nicholson, you've been bursting to say something.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, it could be where, after the Hippo God says something, maybe the pulver they want that was going, and Jake comes out, and maybe he's just foaming at the mouth, demonic sort of looking guy, and he's like, oh, you've kept me in prison for too long, and we're like, what the fuck is happening? And it'd be like one of those things where, because now they released him, he's now part of, he's not just a duo anymore, it's a trio of personalities, and now he's untapped, or he's now free to be part of the psyche, and he can jump in and out of the psyche. He's not just contained until they absolutely need him. He's part of the functioning world. And maybe if there is going to be a season 2, and this is just me speculating, you two could look up at this. Maybe the whole thing is Jake adapting to being out in the world and having to be a functioning member of society when he's just been brought forward to be a killer. And how does somebody who that's all they've been their entire existence, how do they function? That could be interesting. Me too. I like his background as well. You can just see random people coming in and out, and he's much fun.
Yeah, I need to get a green screen to go with it.
Well, look, a couple of things. First of all, the light. Did you notice that for them being in these caves, there hasn't been people haven't been in God knows how long. There was a lot of sunlight beaming through it, which kind of irked me a little bit, especially on Alexander the Great's cave. That was a bit weird. Nerdiverse. Oh, welcome at the very end. The zombie mummies, they have to be answered at some particular point if they are real, but obviously we're going into mindfuck territory as well. And I also feel that if we do get the reveal of Jake, I think Mark is going to feel very insecure and maybe emasculated by him, because Mark is the merc guy. He's the one fucking people over and able to fight. But we've also seen in the Blackouts that Jake takes it to another fucking level. You know what I mean? He's fucking cutting people open and shit like that. A bit like those mummies, funnily enough. Maybe there's a correlation there. Who knows? But still, it'll be interesting to see how Mark takes to him. I think maybe Steve might like him. Who knows? You know what I mean? Because he sees Mark so fucking scared of him, or so he feels inferior to him. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm just speculating right now. Nothing's been proven, but nevertheless, excellent episode. I'm really happy with this episode because I was waning a little bit. I thought it was very much by the numbers. I did feel this was CW on a budget, but this was very.
Hey, look how you doing.
This is very, very good. This was fucking fantastic. So before we wrap things up, guys, anything more to say? I'll start with you, Jack Nicholson.
I agree with you. It's an excellent episode. I wasn't waiting as much as you do because I was liking the storytelling. I was liking the characters. I was liking everything. I did wonder where the more bizarre aspects were going to come back in, because the first episode was quite not bizarre, but kind of more things that were kind of inexplicable in it. Whereas this just brought those aspects back and also, so I really liked it. I'm hoping next episode what we see is we see Jake being untapped, unleashed, and then, as I said, it is going to be further episodes on what it is to be. How does Jake adapt to being unleashed his personality, and how do the other two manage him and his time in and out of the body? Does he get equal time to the rest of them? That sort of thing. So that's what I'm hoping for, but that's the thing.
Jake's going to be a fascinating character when he does get revealed. Reverend Jake as well, talking about Jakes. How did you find the overall, what have you got to say about this episode, and are you happy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely loved the series so far. I think I've been a little fanboy on it compared to everyone else here, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that I've been following Moon Knight for a while. I've been a fan, and to kind of see someone like this go out. It hasn't quite been what I wanted, though, to be honest. Moon Knight in the comics he's kind of happy-go-lucky kill streak. He wears white because he wants them to see him coming, kind of thing. And I don't think we've gotten to see that side of it. I'm really hoping that Jake will bring some of that out. But at the same time, it's been a fantastic series. It's been fun the way they're doing things. I want more. And if they ended after one season, even if they sent it to Layla, I'm going to be disappointed as a Moon Knight fan. That's all the Moon Knight I'm going to get. Whereas Doctor Strange fans get 3 movies plus his cameo in 19 other movies, and I get 6 episodes. It's going to be a little disappointing. But although I still love the series, I can't say it's been bad. It's been great. I just want more. Please don't end it. But it was.
I'll say this. No matter how big of a movie star you are, and Oscar Isaac is a massive movie star, you always want to be involved in a franchise. It's important. Like, the biggest stars out there have been involved in franchise. Schwarzenegger's the Terminator, Sylvester Stallone is Rocky and fucking Rambo. Even some people like Clint Eastwood's like fucking Dirty Harry. You know what I mean? You like, and just to be part of something, especially the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is like the biggest at the moment.
They print money.
You'd be stupid to to turn your nose up at it. Look, like I said earlier regarding Natalie Portman, she turned her nose up at it, thinking it was all fucking stupid. Then just after Captain America: Winter Soldier, when that came out, that just took the Marvel Cinematic Universe to another level. Not even Avengers. Avengers was all fun and games, but Captain America: Winter Soldier was the film that really just like put the bar up and say, you know what, this shit is quality. You know what I mean? It's not just fucking roller coaster rides of getting the gang together for a fucking crossover. We're getting some quality stuff here. And then it blew up to this phenomenon. And then she came running back the moment she got an opportunity, So Oscar Isaac would be very silly to turn his nose up to being part of this. This is bigger. I mean, he was part of the shit sequels in the Star Wars, which has got going nowhere. This, he can be reoccurring constantly. You know what I mean? Take it, Oscar. Don't say no to this. This is the best. This is like to be part of this and people love him. No one ever got a bad thing to say about Oscar Isaac. He's very, very popular. So yeah.
Well, the thing is we don't know what other projects he's got in the ether. I mean, you remember that, Natalie Portman had a load of other projects other than Thor that she was doing. And they took priority over doing.
Yeah, but nothing she's done, boss man, has been bigger than the Marvel Cinematic Universe and even fucking the Star Wars shit she did before that. I can't think of anything, that she's done.
The Star Wars stuff, I think, is her biggest stuff.
Yeah, it's her biggest stuff. But now being 4, oh my god! I mean, she's it's gonna send her to another fucking level now. You know what I mean? So and she's part of
but I'm saying with Oscar Isaacs, he recently played Duke Atreides from Dune. He's going to do a lot of other stuff. I mean, as I said,
but he dies as well. We all remember that. It's not like he's going to be in the sequels. You know what I mean? So
doesn't have anything ongoing.
Yeah, but so it's just all I'm saying is good to be part of something where you're guaranteed to have work and it's very popular. So if you can, we're going to do another Moon Knight film. All right, fine. He can be on this bandwagon for 20 years. You know what I mean? So it's always going to bring him popularity and notoriety, and it will cement him, in people's minds, for a long time to come. But anyway, we'll see what happens in the future. I personally think he will come back, but he'll be stupid not to. Nowadays movie stars are not bigger than the films. I think the films are bigger than the movie stars nowadays. There's only a couple of people who are like the last of the old school people, like Tom Cruise, and even him, he's had to reinvent himself as a fucking action as a stuntman to a degree, to keep that notoriety going. And he's got the Mission Impossible franchise as well. There's another, coming back at Ethan Hawke all the fucking time. So it's good to be part of a franchise. End of the day. All right. I think we've spoken enough. Looking forward to next week's episode. We will be back, well, I will be back tomorrow talking about the latest episode of Picard. And I'm sure there'll be other things as well on the horizon, where there be news of dickheads like Ezra Miller getting arrested again, or maybe just basically dipping our toe in the Fandom Menace debate. If you want to see that on our channel, we're talking about all these particular things right now. All right. Anything more to say, fellas? Okay. Thank you very much for watching. Have a nice day. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to NerdTube, the greatest YouTube channel you never heard of. Bye.